Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Strange New Worlds podcast. I forgot what we were going to say at the beginning of this.
I think it's a strange new podcast. I don't know what we're calling it.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Welcome to a strange new world of diving in to Strange New Worlds. Because we are such Star Wars fans. I'm Camille.
Star Wars. Whoa, hold on.
Star Trek fans. You know what? I was watching The Mandalorian and Grogu yesterday, so I have the Mandalorian soundtrack in my head, like constantly.
Fair enough. It happens to all of us. We slip up a few times saying Star Trek, Star Wars.
Not acceptable. Not acceptable. I'm Camille Salazar-Hathaway, and I'm here with my pal, Steve Saylor. Steve, how you feeling this go round of episode? This is where we dive in to the garrison. I don't want your full review yet, but what did it leave you? What was like that feeling of, you know, when you left the episode? Were you like, ooh, or
ooh, if we're talking the Griffin incident. So apologies, we're a little bit late. We had had to switch things around schedule wise, but yeah, I think for me, if we're just going to dive right into my thoughts, I think I like this episode better than the first one. Of the season. I was not ready to really like this one, because like I saw the preview of it and it was like, okay, great, you know, we got sort of zombie like humans on a ship, and you know, we get a Kirk, Spock, and Lon episode. I was like, okay, all right, fine, because usually I don't do a lot of like scary horror in Star Trek. I don't mind it. It's fun when it is, but like this, it can get either like super creepy and scary, like in Next Generation when they all turn into de-evolved into animal creatures, or you get weird like Janeway and Paris turning into re-evolving into that. That's just, I don't know. But for me, I think this, like by the end of this, I was like, okay, I like what they were doing with this. It kind of adds a little bit something new to Star Trek lore. Well, I mean, we could definitely talk about Division 12 and what that is, because I have, that sent my brain like a spark. And there was even like one line I still can't wait to be able to talk to you about it in spoilers. But there's one line in there that I was like, that's so brutal. Like it's almost like if you know kind of line. But I think I really liked this one because it has, and you know, it's tropey. It's very
tropey.
It has the whenever they hallucinate and, you know, they're trying to deal with their own inner sort of demons and whatever, and it happened, like you get the characters kind of like having their own personal turmoil, just sort of like exasperated in this on this ship, the Griffin. But I think that overall, like it's like there's a lot of like interesting things that kind of like sets up in this, and like and I kind of like how they ended it in a way, and we'll talk about it in spoilers, but it's like I really liked how they ended it with this one, and just and kind of left you wanting more essentially by the end of it. So if I had to kind of give it a score, I definitely would give it probably, I'd say an 8.5 out of 10. Camille, what about you? What did you think of the Griffin incident?
Oh my gosh. It was, so I didn't see the previews for this one, so I didn't know what to expect going in, and I am not a fan of, I'm a fan of horror. I can't withstand horror. Like I'm not good at like watching horror things, playing horror video games. Like I'm just not good with that. So for me, when I was dealing with this episode, I was like under a blanket holding it up to my eyes, just like, oh no, I can't. But it kept me intrigued throughout the entire episode, dealing with the USS Griffin and figuring out what that incident was essentially, although they didn't really answer anything, but I like you, I like how they left it very vague, very creepy, tropey, you know. I feel like in every Star Trek iteration there is like a horror episode or like a really hard horror episode, but I found this one to be the most gruesome, and I'm all for gruesomeness, even though I can't stand horror. Doesn't make sense. So I loved that element of it, and it made me much more excited. Of course, yes, the mention of Division 12, but it made me much more excited, because then I start like tinfoil hatting, and I'm like, ooh, Star Trek could totally go a specific way, like how they did this episode. I think it's the best like horror-esque episode of all Star Trek. So for me to score this episode, it'd probably be like a 9 for me. It
Wow.
pretty high up there. Yeah, a 9 for me. It was so good. So as we get into it, because we wanted to get into it straight off the bat, we are going to go into spoiler territory. So you want to beware if you haven't watched the episode, and come right back here right now.
Okay.
So then you can chat it up with us.
Yes.
So let's talk
where do you want to start first? Because there's a lot to go to dive into.
Let's start where they start off. So pretty much the crew comes along that this starship that was thought to have essentially disappear, go MIA with its crew, but it had this lore around it that pretty much something happened to the crew. They disappeared, the USS Griffin, they disappeared, but it's thought to never exist. So they get pulled in and they see the USS Griffin and they're like, whoa, it can't be, because it's such a like known story that this starship disappeared.
Yeah,
and
it's literally like a ghost story, essentially. That's like no one knew what happened to it. It's a kind of conspiracy theory. It's like they were even like talking like, okay, what actually, like what they heard, what happened, and it really definitely does set up of like, okay, this is going to be a mystery that we're going to have to unfold or discover, essentially.
Yeah, and right off the bat, because it's like a ghost story, they start mentioning Division 12, right? They start saying like, this is like Division 12 territory. Like, you know, they need to kind of figure it out and understand, like, you know, it's been talked about, but no one really touches anything Division 12 touches, because no one knows what Division 12 is essentially working on, right? So I liked that they started teasing a little bit of Division 12 in it. At this point, I was like, oh, are we going to see someone from Division 12 potentially?
Maybe some point.
Right?
But I love the idea of it. Like what set my brain sparking of like different sort of story ideas of what Division 12 is, because essentially it's like, it's the X-Files division of Starfleet. It's the they're the ones who are sent to, you know, to explore or to investigate basically ghost stories or anything paranormal, supernatural,
anything unexplained.
Anything unexplained.
Can't explain. They investigate. And essentially the last Star Trek movie with Michelle Yeoh, we thought we would get more information on Division 12 as well. Wait.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
Well, yeah, section 31.
Section 31,
that's like sort of the covert spy.
Spy,
again,
but they're
divisions
like
that you don't
know about. So like, I thought they were gonna tease more of that. We didn't get that in the movie. Everyone has their qualms with the movie. I do as well, but whatever. So yes, Division 12 essentially is the X-Files. It's the X-Files of Starfleet. And then we don't hear anything about Division 12 throughout like the whole episode until like nearing the end of it, which I was a little bit disappointed in, because I was like, oh, like this, I could totally see them down the road having an entire like show around Division 12, much more
or
grounded.
Episode like dedicated. I totally agree. It's like I would have wanted more, but I love that they kind of kept it mysterious, and like all we saw was just the Division 12 ship, which doesn't look like a regular Starfleet ship that we've seen, but it was like you could see them towing the Griffin away, and I'm just like, and then hearing like Pike basically say like he's submitted six
Division 12 requests,
and 4 of which have been solved, or like scientific whatever, and then 2 of which he's still waiting to hear back from as far as like what happened to it. I'm like, I like that they just like they debunk things that are kind of unexplained, and then they also like, we're still figuring it out. And I hope that they that teases to like a new, like an episode coming up, or
I just want a whole series on Division.
I want a series too.
Division 12, please. Just give us and hire Mulder and Scully. Like, just make them part of Starfleet now, and bring us Division 12,
or even hire like some like horror directors that do great on TV.
That's the thing. So this episode really dived into horror, and like we mentioned, there are Star Trek episodes in every iteration of Star Trek that deal with horror. But this one I felt like really dived into like the gruesome side of things, which I really loved. So essentially, they decide to have part of the crew Lon, Spock, and Kirk
Yeah.
essentially go on to the Griffin, which was hilarious because obviously Lon and Spock have a relationship right now, but also there was it last season? I think it was last season, an episode where it explored Kirk and Lon having some sort of
a potential
relationship because they were lost in time in
Toronto,
our era, in our era. Yeah. So there was this dynamic as they're actually going to the Griffin in the shuttle of essentially Kirk saying the elephant in the room out loud that like, oh, I could understand why you two are together because they're very much alike. They're not they're very much business oriented people and very logical. So he said, I can understand why you're together. And then Lon starts going into this conversation with Kirk about what happened with him and Carol and his son. David.
Because we talked about this like last time of like, are we going to get more Carol and David mentions throughout this? And we got that, which was like David's a young boy in this one. And I kind of like that we're it's setting up sort of different things later on.
So at this time, Carol and Kirk are separated. Like they are no longer together. He said it was his fault because he chose Starfleet and she didn't sign up for all of the hardship with knowing that your significant other is on a starship and could die at any time. So that's why they aren't together at this moment, but he tries to see David. And throughout this episode, he's kind of, his storyline, Kirk's, is struggling with understanding how to make that work-life balance, essentially, of being a father, but also being away on all these missions on a ship, essentially light years away from home, and not being able to be physically there for his son. And we actually hear this conversation with him and Sam, who we'll get to later on in the episode, of how their father wasn't really there for them because their father was essentially away on missions all the time, so they don't really have a relationship with him. And the last time they both heard from him was their birthdays, they said at the same time, which I don't know, just like these quirks that they throw in here in developing these relationships between the characters. And for Lon, as we left off in the previous episode, she's been dealing with some changes to her physically where she's not feeling anymore. She's not feeling pain. So she's been kind of dealing with her augmentations and understanding if she is essentially changing for the good or the better. And then Spock, as he goes into this storyline, is dealing with being Spock, dealing with being a Vulcan, which I feel like they always circle back.
That was the one thing that kind of like took me out of the episode a little bit, was because it's like we've already dealt with, like, it's multiple times in this series, Spock basically trying to deal with his human and his Vulcan side, and it just, we kind of got a little bit more of like now his conflict of T'Pring and La'an, now that he's in the relationship with La'an, but we kind of already had that before when he was sort of dealing with T'Pring and then Christine, like when they were in that relationship. So it almost seems like in a weird way, it almost feels like that Spock in this series is kind of a fuckboy. Because he's in a relationship almost like every season with somebody. And it just like, first it was T'Pring, then it was Christine, then it's La'an, and it's just like, he's a logical fuckboy.
But it works. It works for a storyline. Well, so we find the trio pretty much on the Griffin, and as they're exploring, they come across like a ghost, essentially. Somewhat Harper, who was she second in command, I believe, Lieutenant Harper. Yeah. So she essentially shows up, says, "I've been waiting for you," and all three of them see her. And she looks very zombified. Very zombified. How did you feel about the looks of the zombies? Because I know sometimes that could be a talking point with Star Trek, but it also is what makes Star Trek because it doesn't look all Walking Dead,
It does, but I also like that they didn't necessarily go like super gross with it. Like it's
Yeah.
essentially it's their bodies are decayed, or you can tell that they're dead and sort of zombified, but like their uniform is still kind of like a little bit almost not as
Pristine.
pristine, but just like it's not torn or
It's
whatever.
pretty much
But
pristine, yeah.
one of the things I wanted to bring up as you kind of like mentioning, like I don't know if you caught this, but I was like so impressed with the way that they sort of were teasing the crew members, because
Yeah.
every scene leading up to that point, and kind of like a few scenes, like, or basically throughout the whole episode, there are times where you will have like conversations between either Kirk and La'an, or La'an and Spock. Like you would see them appear in the background. Like you would see
the crew members that disappeared.
Yeah. Oh, and I thought that was so well done, because they didn't really acknowledge it. There was no like a lot of like a musical sort of like sting to kind of like to say that, oh, there's something weird happening. I think there's like once or twice, like they'll turn around and they don't see anything, but like there was a creature that was or like a crew member that was there. But I like that. Even when they even beamed in, there was someone that was just off to the side.
Yeah.
And then they kind of disappeared, and I was like, that is doing horror in a way that it's like the audience is brought in.
But the audience is brought in, but then it's not confirmed by any of the cast.
Exactly, which is so cool.
It's so cool. It's so creepy, and I think it gets even creepier as the crew splits up and they try to investigate. Pretty much, because they're getting the signal from Harper, they realize that this person may still be alive, and they're obviously trying to figure out if they need to rescue this person, but things go awry. And specifically, when you're with Spock and he's in sickbay, trying to figure out, like, they find body bags, and they're trying to figure out like what these body bags were for. They're figuring out that Harper has done more than they thought, because it seemed like Harper was a victim, but it seemed like she may actually be the cause, which I also like when they go more psychological than just horror. So I like that they also built that into the story of the Griffin crew. It's like, it seems like one like their second in command essentially went crazy. But when Spock is starting to look at the computer and asking the computer more information at Harper, the creepiness ensues, because behind him you see the body bags start to blow up, and then you start to see blood just lining each body bag, and it's done so subtly that it's like, at first you may not have noticed until they go to that shot where they really show the body bag filling up with blood. It was done so well.
Yeah, like even the one point when you see like I mean we figure out it's T'Pring that like kind of like sits up, but like there's a body that sits up in the body bag, and it's like, it reminded me of that one TNG episode where Beverly's kind of like in the cargo bay with a bunch of bodies, and then one of them sort of like sits up. Like that's the kind of horror that Star Trek can do, that is super duper creepy, but it's like it like, I love, even though if that wasn't necessarily a nod to TNG, I love that I was like, okay, someone's gonna be sitting up, there's gonna be a body bag that's gonna sit up. And then seeing that it was T'Pring, I was just like,
expect that. I didn't expect
that either.
It to be T'Pring, because honestly, when that relationship ended, I just thought that we know that storyline is not completely done. Because of what happened.
Mock time comes
late. Exactly. But I just thought we were done with Strange New Worlds and T'Pring. Like, it was just a little cameo, but it was really cool that they brought her back. And what I liked even more is, obviously she seemed like she was really there to help Spock. Like, I bought in. I was like,
me too.
Okay, like maybe T'Pring is here, because she's like, no, I'm not supposed to be here. So like, even with this whole psychological thing, I knew that they couldn't have been there. But then there was a part of me that's like, maybe there's a way that they were there.
That was the thing. I was kind of like, I wasn't sure, because they kind of left that sort of very vague. It's like even T'Pring is like saying, like, telling a story that Spock would know, but it like Spock's like, no, I told you that story. Like, I like that you're probably being pulled from my mind, because that's from my mind. And it just,
and then she's like, no, I'm not in my mind. I'm not supposed to be on the Griffin. How did I get on the Griffin? Like, she's conversing it as though it's present time. Like, often with, when we see loved ones or hallucinations, they're usually talking as though they're locked in a certain time frame of that person's mind. So, like,
Yeah.
if T'Pring was in a relationship at that point with Spock, but she is talking as though she is present and aware that she shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and even with like in Vulcan, like when they do mind melds, their Katra kind of like their
Yes.
souls are kind of connected. So it's been proved. They've already shown it. Like in funny enough, I'm actually rewatching the Star Trek Discovery, and Michael Burnham has that with Sarek, in that they have that kind of like sort of distant connection between. So I could imagine that Spock and T'Pring have that kind of connection where it's like that's why I figure it's like okay, if she's in his head, maybe it's like she's still on Vulcan, and it's like, and it's her Katra that's basically connecting with Spock right now. So that was like
him, trying to help him through whatever he's going through. Exactly. But then when she starts to be like, I realize that our relationship, and I feel like T'Pring in that relationship, I wasn't sold on T'Pring and Spock in Strange New Worlds because I honestly just felt like a cameo, not like they were diving into the storyline. But then here when T'Pring starts talking about like, I actually was wrong. It wasn't you. Your human side's actually what's good, which your Vulcan side is what bad. And then she grabs the scissors
and just starts chopping off his ears. I was like, oh my God. That was we gotta like, that was the thing with that another added thing with Star Trek that they kind of sometimes do, but they do a bit of hot body horror with this. And you see like, like even see like the severed like or the cut ear a little bit later on too.
Because I was like, oh well, then they're gonna show him he's not gonna have his ears cut, and then his ears are cut. They're cut.
They're very cut.
They're very cut. But then we also see the crew. So we see Pike. We see. Oh my gosh.
We see Pike. We see Sam. We see Uhura.
And then oh my gosh. Yes. Who
and then Una. Yeah, we see
Una. Yes, we see Una also beam onto the Griffin. So they're trying to figure out what's happening here, helping the trio as they're being affected by something on the ship. Essentially, they start seeing more crew members, especially Lon. She sees the whole crew, and Harper pretty much telling her that like, ooh, she is one of them, and not to trust other people. And
that's that camera trick in engineering when it's like she's talking to her, and then all of a sudden, like the quick cut, and then everyone of the crew of the Griffin is there and behind her. I was like, they did that a lot with this. There was a lot of like great cinematography when they would switch between different like pairs or different characters. They would have like this cool transition where they would have like a flashlight kind of go across the screen, and then that light would kind of be the transition to another scene. And they did that a few times. They did some really neat camera tricks transitioning to different parts, and that was one of them. I was like, ooh, that was very good.
It was very good. And even when Lon is going after Uhura, and then you see Lon thinks it's Harper, but then essentially they do that quick switch, and you see actually it's Lon with the blade that Uhura, and I was like, yeah, like she is turning on her own crew.
This is like Fight Club sort of situation right now.
Yeah, it is. And you don't talk about Fight Club.
Exactly.
but they did like those parts so well, because usually again with these tropes in Star Trek, when they're dealing with horror, there's usually one person that snaps to it by the end of it, but that doesn't happen at all throughout this episode. Like even as you're dealing with Kirk essentially, and oh my gosh, the most gruesome of them all is he's talking to Sam about hearing David's voice. And then Sam is telling him, this is how I kind of manage. I'm not the perfect father, but this is how I manage. And then the hull starts cracking on the bridge, and you see Sam being sucked into the
view screen.
The view screen essentially to the vacuum of space. And they freeze on that because he's stuck in a crack, and you see his intestines.
Yeah, his blood and his intestines are being sucked out of him into space.
And then he says,
I was like, I could not believe that, because like this whole time it's like you totally believe that this is the crew, like they came to rescue them, and then and then I was like, they just killed off Sam. Sam.
I'm like, they killed off Sam like that. Like Sam actually died. Like I was like, they just
like there was no ifs, ands, or buts. There was no ambiguity. He died.
And like it's like honestly, that was a good death. Like they did it so well that you as a viewer really, really felt that death have that impact. And you see
Yes.
it have an impact. And another gruesome moment for me is when Spock finally sees Kirk and Una, and they seem like they're trying to save Spock, but then they kind of redirect him back to
Oh
sick
yeah.
bay and then
Oh.
strap him in and say the
Oh.
ship's trying to help. And as he's doing that, you see T'Pring starting to talk amongst Una and Kirk.
And Pike. Yeah.
Sorry, as Pike. And as you see that, Pike starts cutting his own fingers
Oh
off.
yeah, he's like, I always wanted to be a chef, and then he's like, I didn't want to be a captain, and then he starts cutting his own fingers, like he's chopping up like vegetables, and I was like, oh, I don't like it.
It looked, and the camera did not shy away from it at all.
No.
Like sometimes you'll see like they'll just cut, like they'll frame from above the fingers essentially, so you get the idea, but you don't see it. This episode, you saw every single moment.
Yeah. They didn't even like do a push zoom into it to see that you didn't see a lot of super amount of detail, but you do see it.
You see the bones, Steve. Like it's so gruesome. Or even when Lon finally goes all berserk and like not severs, but like stabs Kirk essentially, right?
Ooh.
And
this was the line I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know if you caught this. But La'an is after she stabs Kirk, and then she's talking about David. She's talking about Kirk's son. She goes, "Your son is going to die by stabbing he's died by the knife with no one alone." And if you know, in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, David does die by by basically a bat, like I can't remember the dagger, the Klingon dagger, but by Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon, as Kirk stabs him, and it's like in the dark part of the galaxy is what Lon said, and I was like, it's the Genesis planet. I was like, oh my god, like I love when sometimes they do Easter eggs like that, but I caught that and I was like, oh, that was so dark. That was so dark.
That's the thing that was like, that's why I was like, wait, is this all like throughout the episode? And I think that's why it was such a good episode to me. It had me questioning, wait, is this actually happening? Like, because it seems so real. And I think when horror is done well, and psychological horror is when the audience can't even trust what they see and start questioning what they see, and questioning what they don't see. Right? Like I was hoping I would see a moment where someone's like, oh, this, like, I know you hear Kirk say like, this is not real. He's telling Sam like, this is not real. You're not hearing it. This is not real. But
which is so weird because it's like, he sounds like he's like totally like fine now, but he's technically hallucinating Sam and every other crew member that's there.
Exactly. So it's like he's saying the right things, but he's still not seeing things that you think are right. Or that you think are not existent, but because it's happening and he's still reacting, and it's a complete mind F. Like you don't, like it messes with your mind so well. And I think that's why it was such a good episode. And the gore, like it really had me questioning, what if Star Trek were actually to go, yes, the Division 12 stuff. I would love it if you're listening, the execs at CBS, Paramount Plus, whatever it is now. Please, Division 12.
You've got a Star Trek horror game coming up with Roll Aaron. That's why I'm hoping that Division 12 is going to be, because that'd be so great.
But even if it's like just even a crew, like if it is Division 12, but like that's really scary, really gruesome.
You know what? I would love it. Like same format as Stranger Worlds, where it's like it's like a story of the week kind of deal, where it's like it's a monster of the week, like creature of the week, where every single episode is a different brand new like mystery to kind of solve or whatever. I would love, and I would eat this freaking show up. Like
and like, oh man, whoever they had working on the horror stuff, like that team needs a raise. Honestly, it was just done so well. It was done so well. And then the icing on it is even when they got back and you see that Kirk was stabbed by Lon, and they're on the teleporter and Lon realizes what's happening, and we see Pike, we see Una, we see everyone pretty much that was on the ship looking at her like, oh crap, right? I thought they just snapped out of it, and then you hear Pike said, "We were never on the ship." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
What?
And Sam was off with his
And
family,
Sam was
like
off,
not even
yes,
on the Enterprise at
but
all. Oh,
it was done so well.
yeah,
But then it has me questioning, what is Lon gonna deal with? Because all of this, her experience is dealing in with whether she is becoming more Sing, the more
yeah,
Sing of it all, right?
yep.
And for her to actually physically be the one that like harmed her crew member, actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's I think that's going to play into her storyline. And I think, again, I'm really thinking her storyline may actually be leading to like that main thing at the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely like as they kind of set up like last season with I'm blanking on the captain's name, Pike's basically like partner, where she basically was infected with the Gorn, and
Yeah.
that sort of like was kind of like throughout the entire like season. I feel like that this is like the setup for like this whole like this like one of the stories throughout the season is going to be La'an sort of like, is she gonna like is her genetics gonna come out and play as Khan, or is like it's gonna get worse, it's gonna get better, we don't know. I feel like that this is definitely going to be setting up to a much bigger, hopefully good payoff by the end of the season for sure.
Yeah, and then like you said, how they ended the episode, still like that referral to Division 12, and like anyone like the crew was literally horrified for just stepping foot on the Griffin, which it made me realize I always thought I could handle being a star on a starship. I don't think so. I don't, because a lot of things that happen on the Griffin, I would have been like, nope, I'm just gonna sit here in the corner and just wait to be saved.
Yeah.
But they did that referral to Division 12, and then we see that lasting shot of Lon looking out to
Was it Lon or was it Palmer? Because I couldn't tell based on like, because they were zooming in a little bit and you see him
Lon,
from through
Lon
the
looks
window.
to the ship, right?
Right. Okay.
And then when you're seeing the ship be towed by Division
Yes.
12, and then as it zooms in, I think it's Harper who
Okay.
you see, and Harper saying shh. So it's still like a ghost story, the unexplained, and it may just make Division 12 show happen.
Oh yeah. That was what I loved about this episode, is that they never fully explained what happened on the Griffin.
Yeah,
like you got a little bit of it where it was like the crew went like basically started hallucinating and there was like several deaths that they basically was like of stabbings and injuries and stuff, and it was Palmer was the only one that was trying to be able to like save the crew, but couldn't, and we don't know what happened to the shuttles, we didn't know what happened to the escape pods, and then why are they the way they are? They never explained it, and I like that they did that, because again, that ties it up to a Division 12 of like it's completely unexplainable. Like that could be another story throughout the whole season of just like maybe we'll see a little bit more of Division 12 later on, and we'll get maybe a little bit more explanation. But like I like that they kept it open ended, because it just, I mean, that's how kind of sometimes how ghost stories are. It's like you don't fully know what, like whether or not that it's real or not. And I really did appreciate that. I was glad that they didn't try to build like tidy it up in like the last like 5-10 minutes.
And Star Trek kind of like plays both ends, right? Where it's like sometimes they'll be like, and I think back to Next Gen, there's a few cases when they're experiencing something and it's like a question mark at the end, like there's no real explanation, even though like Data will try to put an explanation,
some sort of scientific,
right? Exactly, right. But then they also play the side of like, we honestly we don't know, or this is the reason. So I do like with this type of horror, psychological horror, where we were questioning what is what. They left it up for the air and wanting more of something that I shouldn't even watch, because I don't like horror, or I like horror but I can't watch it by myself. Luckily I watched this episode though in the daytime with my blinds up. And
oh yeah, I totally watched this during the day. I was like, I ain't gonna watch this during like at night. You kidding me? No, I don't want to be going to bed with that in my head.
No,
so
it was done so well, and honestly, I hope, I don't know if I like, it's kind of like too much of a good thing. Like I don't know if I want another horror-esque episode this season, because this was perfection to me, almost perfection.
Yeah, I think I don't think I mean, unless they're going to bring back Division 12, I don't think we're going to get another like ghost story essentially like this in the season. Maybe later on, who knows? But I mean, they have like they kind of dip into horror a few times. I mean, a few of the Gorn episodes have been pretty scary. A little bit more into the aliens side of the like another franchise, but yeah, I like that how Stranger Worlds can be able to jump into that. They can go from just classic sci-fi, like classic Star Trek story. Then you can go into like a horror episode. Then you can go into it like a comedic, sort of fun episode. Like they've been like I've started to appreciate that more in this series, because even though I still want an overarching story throughout a whole season, and they focus more on that than necessarily the episode of the week, but I'm starting to appreciate that. That's just not how Strange New Worlds is. Like, yes, you get a little bit of that, but knowing that it's going to be a different episode with a standalone story pretty much as you go, with a little bit of tie-in to the character growth throughout the season, I'm fine with that, and I'm ready to be to go along with the ride for the rest of the season for sure.
Yes, we are ready to go along with the ride, and we hope you come too. So be sure to listen where you get your podcast, to this podcast and a whole bunch of others. We do gaming podcasts right here on a gaming network. I don't know what we talked about this week because I wasn't there. What did we talk about this week? Were you there?
I was there. I'm like,
well, we also have an X-Men podcast. We have a bunch of podcasts.
Yes, yeah.
Okay? So you should just stay tuned, because we do some really cool stuff here, and we appreciate your support. And we look forward to more Strange New Worlds episodes as we continue. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.